Hey, if you'd like to earn CEUs for this webinar, join the Safeopedia community at the link in the description below. Now, on to the show.
Hello and a warm welcome to everyone. We would like to wish everyone a good morning, a good afternoon, or a good evening, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Samantha and I am from Safeopedia, and here at Safeopedia, it is our mission to support the EH&S professionals, operational folks, and any safety-minded individuals with free safety information, tools, and education. I'd like to extend a huge thank you to all of our dedicated safety professionals for the great work they do on a daily basis in keeping us safe. Just a reminder, this webinar is being recorded, and we do have a Q&A with the Honeywell experts at the end of this presentation. So make sure you get your questions or your comments into the Zoom Q&A, and we will get to them at the end of this presentation. Today, we are proud to present Elevate Your Fixed Ladder Safety. This Safeopedia webinar has been made possible today by Honeywell, a preferred manufacturer member of AD Safety Network. AD, together we win. I'd like to introduce to you today's presenter, Andrew Komisky, and we also have a few Honeywell team members in the background here that'll be able to help some of your questions and help you with some of those comments from the Honeywell team. Today, our Honeywell experts are going to walk you through fall protection hazards and how you can enhance you and your team's ladder safety knowledge to provide the best and safe solutions with Miller Fall Protection. I'm excited to have you all sit back, relax, and enjoy this presentation. With that, Andrew, let's jump into it.
I appreciate it, Samantha. Again, my name is Andrew Komisky, and we're going to talk a little bit about fixed ladder safety and things that you need to be prepared for the 2036 deadline. Quickly, just a little bit about me. I've been supporting safety programs for over 25 years. I am a competent person in fall protection and also in confined space, and I've been supporting Miller Fall Protection for the last 15 years. Some of the topics that we're going to talk about today, a little bit about Miller Fall Protection, components of a fall protection system, which are integral with regards to the actual ladder climbing systems themselves, some of the changes in the OSHA Walking-Working Surfaces with regards to fixed ladders. We're going to go over some of the things that you need to understand and some of the things that you need to consider when looking at your fall protection systems and your ladders on your sites, and then different solutions that are available in the industry, and then just some key questions just to consider when you're walking around your plants and things that you may need to look at. A couple things about Miller Fall Protection. We've been around for over 80 years. We have many different innovative products that we have started with, and starting from insulated pliers all the way to self-retracting devices, leading edge items, confined space, and exactly what we're talking about today, safety for fixed ladders. When folks are talking about fall protection, many times they may not always consider all the components that are needed for fall protection. The easiest way to think of the components of a fall protection system are the ABCs. A for anchors, B for bodywear, C for connectors. You need to have all three components for the system to work properly. Even in today's topic, we're speaking of the ladder safety systems. Each one of them is going to have some form of an anchor, some form of a piece of bodywear, and a connector to connect everything together. Some things that are commonly overlooked within the fall protection program is the rescue side. If somebody happens to have an emergency or they fall, how do you safely get them down? In some cases, it's something as simple as making sure that they have relief straps for their legs to help with the suspension syndrome. But then after that, you still have to figure out how you're going to get them back up or get them back down. And that's something that is commonly overlooked on the fall protection systems. But today, we're going to make sure that no one forgets about that either. Miller does have the ABCs and rescue handled with all of the products, but in some cases, your specific site may not have a application where an off-the-shelf item may work. Miller does have a engineering division that we can build custom systems that will work in your applications, even if it is something that's a little bit different. So just because there's not something off the shelf doesn't mean it can't be done. Getting into the walking working surface changes, back at the end of 2016, OSHA was updating the walking working surfaces, and one part of that update had to do with fixed ladders, similar to what you see in the picture right there, a fixed ladder that's on the side of a building, on the side of a tank. and historically it's had some form of a cage that's on there as well. Well, what they realize is that cage is not really designed for fall protection or fall restraint, things like that. It is something that if you actually fell in that, you could get hurt really, really badly. And in the past, people have gotten hurt in that circumstance. So what they did is they basically set some standards and some regulations to say, hey, if there is a ladder that has more than a 24-foot fall hazard, there needs to be some type of a safety system associated with that. So as of and any current ladders are going to they have a little bit of a reprieve. They have until 2036 to have some type of a fall protection system put on them. Now 2036 seems like a long time, but some of the folks out there have 10, 20, 30, some of them have 100 ladders, and they're going to have to figure out a way to some way mitigate that. And they're going to have to start thinking about how they need to do that, maybe a couple per year, a couple per outage. But if they wait until 2035, 2036, they may not be able to get it done in time. So you definitely have to plan ahead when you're looking at these programs on trying to make sure that you're up to par with some of the OSHA requirements. So on the legacy ladders, the older ladders, you have until 2036. Any new ladders that are out there or significant repair needs to be brought up to the latest standard. So if you have a new tank going on at your facility and you need to have a ladder on there and there's more than a 24-foot fall hazard, you're going to have to put a ladder safety system on there now. So where are fixed ladders? Fixed ladders are in pretty much every building or facility that you may go to. The picture on the right-hand side is actually one of our chemical facilities, and that has probably 50 or 60 different fixed ladders throughout the facility. Now, does every one of them have a 24-foot fall hazard? Not necessarily, but in some cases, it's not necessarily where it's just the 24-foot fall hazard. If you're in an application where it is wet or grimy or dirty and someone has the potential to fall, it's always good practice to put some type of a safety system on some of these ladders, even if they are under 24 foot. But the OSHA requirement is anything more than a 24-foot fall hazard. But you will see these ladders anywhere from nuclear plants to pharmaceutical companies, higher education. They're placed pretty much everywhere. So a lot of times when folks are thinking about fixed ladders, they may think that they're all the same. Unfortunately, they're not. There are many different types of ladders that are out there. They're made with different materials. The rungs are different styles. The exits are different. And all of those need to be considered when you're looking at different types of fall protection systems for your ladders. One of the key things that I see that folks will overlook is the ladder exit. And we're going to get into the ladder exits a little bit more on the next slide. But where does the ladder end? Does the ladder pass the exiting platform? Is it a step-through ladder or is it a hatch ladder? There are different types of solutions that are out there depending on the type of ladder that's there. When folks are looking at rungs, there are a bunch of different types of rung shapes. There are a bunch of different rung sizes. That potentially, if it is more of a unique or an exotic type of rung, there may be limited fall protection systems that may work for it, or it may have to be a custom solution for you. So you need to know the different types of rung shapes, the height and the depth of those rungs as well. So a lot of folks always say, well, how do you know how long the ladder is without pulling out a tape measure or looking at building plans? In many cases, provided that the ladder is built to a standard spec, which a standard spec is about 12 inches on center for the rungs. If you count the number of rungs, that's typically about the height of the ladder, plus or minus a foot or so. But that's an easy way to be able to see how long the ladder is. Other things to consider revolve around the materials that the ladder is being made of. If it is stainless steel, aluminum, or potentially galvanized steel. This is important because depending on the environment that you're in, say if you're in food processing, you may want something that's stainless steel that can be washed down, or if you're offshore, you may want something that's stainless steel. Whereas if we're in the middle of the country and there's no corrosive concerns, you may be able to get away with aluminum or galvanized steel. Earlier, we spoke a little bit on different types of exit. This is a picture that shows a couple of different exits that are here. In many buildings, you're going to see the exit very similar to what's on the right, where the ladder ends at the exiting platform, and then there's a hatch that opens up. That is one style of exit. Another style, which is in the center, is where the ladder passes the exiting platform, and the person's going to step to either the left or the right. There are many different solutions for that type of exit. And then on the far left is where the ladder stops at the exiting platform again, but it is a step-through ladder. It's not a hatch. So there are different types of ladder exits. Important to understand what type of exit it is to see what type of solution may work for you. Also, if you look at the page there, you're going to see a couple of different lines, either orange and blue or orange, blue, white, and green. That's different locations that Miller Fall Protection allows you to put the ladder system. And it really depends on how the person is getting on and off the ladder, and also the position of where the ladder may be in conjunction to where the safe exit is. So there are multiple different places that Miller does allow for exiting. Other things that folks don't always tend to understand or think about when it comes to fixed ladders and the safety systems that are on there is, how often do you have to climb this ladder? Is it something that you need to be there on a daily basis, or is it something that's once or twice a year? How many people need to get up to the top at one time or down to the bottom at the same time? That's something that needs to be considered. Is there any type of links that are different in between the two? There are a lot of different questions that need to be answered with that. The competency of the climber. Some folks do not like climbing ladders. So that's going to help the person decide what type of ladder system you may need, because some are a little bit more forgiving than others when it comes to climbers and comfort of climbing when folks are out in the environment. There also could be some other things that are considered. We talked about the different placement of the ladder system on the previous slide. Other things that need to be considered would be, hey, do we want to have the center of the ladder bound up by a ladder system, or could we put it on the far right on the vertical rail? So some different types of ergonomic needs that falls along with that. Or say if somebody wants to have a safety platform put halfway up, there are different systems out there that you can put foldable footrests on. So there's a lot of different things that could be considered there. Other hazards that not everyone tends to think about when they're talking about ladder safety systems: lockout, tagout, different types of wet environments, different types of security locks or cages that go over the front of the ladder for the security side of it as well, but it does also need to be considered. Many times these systems are come in kits, or you can build them as you need it. But within the kits of the ladder system, typically it is just what attaches to the ladder itself. So that would be the A of the ABCs. Things that typically don't come in kits that are sold a la carte would be the B for body wear, that full body harness that you see in the middle of the page. And then next to the body harness to the left, you're going to see what is called in the industry a shuttle or a grab. And that is what is going to be the connector of the ABCs, the C for connector, within the system. And that's going to connect the anchor point, the ladder safety system, to the harness itself. And ultimately, if someone experiences a fall, that's what's going to stop the person. Other things that also need to be considered with this, things like tool tethering, communication devices, and one other thing that we forgot to talk, that people always forget, the rescue side of it. So don't forget about the rescue side of it as well. This is an example of an evaluation template that Miller Fall Protection has put together for some of its customers. And this is something that we could always get out to any of the members here that would like this. And it's pretty straightforward. It goes on the far left. This is the entire document, and what it does is you look at it and it goes through all of the different things that need to be considered for a fall protection system on a ladder. So you look at, you're going to put the location name, you're going to go through, is it indoor or outdoor? What's the material? Is it stainless steel, aluminum, or galvanized? What type of exit is it? Is it a hatch, step through, or side step? Then the length of the ladder, also the shape of the ladder, the height and depth of the ladder, and then what type of system is best for them. Do they want a rigid, a cable system, or a anchor and a retractable? And we're going to get into a little bit more of that in the next page. So which ladder system is best for me? Well, there's lots of different options. With Miller Fall Protection, we have the largest depth and breadth of fall protection systems globally. We have two different rigid systems. We have our safety climb system and our glide lock. We're going to get into a little bit more information on those in the next couple of slides. And then there are also cable systems that are out there in the market. Our Vigo system is one of the top ones out there. And then also a top bracket anchor and a retractable. They all have their benefits. Some of them have some limitations, but they're all good in their own right, just depending on the frequency of use and also the application where they're being used. And we're going to get into those in the next couple of slides here. So the Miller Safety Climb is a rigid system, as I mentioned in the last slide. This is more of a semi-custom system. So this is one where if you have a 37.5-foot ladder with a step-through exit, this is something that our engineering team can actually build a ladder specifically for that application. It's used a lot in OEM applications because we can build it directly to the spec and then it can send it out. This is more of a semi-custom where we go and look at drawings and build it to the drawing. The beauty of this system right here is this one works really, really well in hatch exits because we have an extension that can be put to the top of it, and then somebody can safely exit out of a hatch exit. In terms of materials for this one, galvanized, aluminum, and stainless steel are the common ones that are used for this. Starting off with our glide lock systems, when we're talking about our kitted systems, these systems are sold in 10-foot increment kits. And the beauty of these is this one is with it being a rigid system, it is very forgiving when folks are climbing. So that's something that if they're wearing the proper size harness, they can lean back in it. It makes it a little bit more comfortable to climb. And also this one has a bunch of different options with entry devices similar to the picture on the lower left, rotary exit. So if you're at a step through ladder and you want to safely exit, you can stay within the system and you can pull up a little pin and that spins it does spin 360 degrees, but it will spin 180 degrees so you can get to the safe side of the exit through the one-way gate, which is very nice. On this system, you can also attach it to the side rail so it keeps that center rail rung area clear for climbing. And different options like a foldable footrest. So if you want to put a footrest every 20 or 25 feet to give folks a rest, you can put that on the ladder so they can step down. These things again are available in galvanized, stainless steel, and aluminum. Sometimes the folks that are climbing don't necessarily need the full rigid system and they prefer a cable system. The cable systems are nice because they're very easy to set up. You just have a top bracket, a bottom bracket, and a intermediate bracket if the spans are more than 40 feet. And these things are very easy to set up and install, available in galvanized and stainless steel. The beauty of both the glide lock in the previous slide and this one is you can have multiple climbers climbing at the same time. Unlike our next one that we're going to see where you can only have one at a time. But with these, we have a shuttle that's here that is, we call it a global shuttle or a VR 570. And with this, VC 570. And with this one, what's nice about it is it not only works with 5/16 cable, it also works with 3/8 cable. And it meets the latest ANSI, CSA, and EN standards. So if you happen to be working across borders or across the pond, you're able to safely use this in multiple applications. The last solution that's out there that's very popular is what's called a top bracket anchor and a retractable. The beauty about this is that unlike the other systems where you have to have a harness with a shuttle to connect to the system, this one you can use a traditional dorsal D-ring harness. So you don't have to have a special harness with a front D-ring and you don't have to have a shuttle with it. This one is very easy to set up, only a couple of connections onto the ladder itself. You put a retractable up there with a tag line, and then you can connect to your harness and start climbing. The only downside to these is the overall length. Most folks are going to probably max out the working height of the ladder at around 40 feet. Much longer than that, it makes it a little bit more difficult to get work done, especially if you have multiple climbers, because this system, you can only climb one person at a time, whereas the other systems, you can potentially, depending on how the ladder system is built, potentially up to 4 people at a time. So different options and different solutions for different applications. So why is this important to you? Well, in essence, it's required by law. Now, there are some things where if it is a legacy ladder or an older ladder prior to 2017, you still have about 11 or 12 years to retrofit it to the standard. So there is a little bit of time to do that. But if there are any new ladders or existing repairs to a ladder, it's going to have some type of a fall protection system put on there. Since a lot of locations have lots and lots of ladders, you really have to plan ahead. If you wait until 2035 or 2036 to potentially try to do this, you may not have enough time to mitigate the ladders and make it safe for the rules of the law. Now, as we mentioned before, there are many different types of ladders. There's different types of materials that are used. There's not a standardization when it comes to ladders. So it's a little bit more of a technical purchase. And that's where Miller Fall Protection has many different sellers out in the field and tech support specialists that can go out to your site and actually look at the location and do a site survey, similar to the one that we showed on the screen a little while ago. Those site surveys are very nice for you to have, because not only is it a free of charge survey, but also at the end, you know exactly what you need to purchase. And if it's something that you want to do a couple during an outage, it's something that you can do, or if you want to do them all at once. Many of these kits that I showed previously, you can put them on yourself, provided that is overseen by a competent person and a qualified person. You can put these systems on yourself with a mechanics tool set and a torque wrench. However, in some cases, folks do not want the liability, and we do have, through our engineering department, a way to do turnkey systems as well. Other things that need to be considered with this is that because this is a new process, folks will need to be trained on this. And this is a little bit different training than standard fall protection, but it is something that is easy to incorporate into your standard fall protection program. Some of the key things that need to be considered when you're thinking about the fixed ladders and the meeting the latest walking working surfaces standard is that, do you have any plans for this? If you don't have plans, really need to start thinking about how you're going to start mitigating this to meet the newest requirements for walking working surfaces. If you have any new projects that are coming up that are going to have fixed ladders, make sure that this is put in during the construction phase, the planning and the construction phase, because it's a lot less expensive to do it than to try to retrofit it afterwards. And as always, Miller Fall Protection has specialists throughout the country that can go around and support you and all of your locations for these systems. So today we've spoken a lot about a lot of different things. We've talked a little bit about Miller Fall Protection, the components of a fall protection system, talked about some of the changes with regards to OSHA walking working surfaces with regards to fixed ladders, talked about some of the things that need to be considered and how to choose the different types of ladder systems that you may need for your application, the different ladder systems that are available, and some key questions to consider. Please let us know if there's any specific questions that you may have by reaching out to Miller Fall Protection.
Great. Well, Andrew, that was a ton of really great information in such a short period of time. And as Andrew just said, now is a great time to ask any of those questions or get any of those comments into the Honeywell team. They are here to provide that safety and protection for you. So Andrew, while we give our audience some time to get those questions in, I know I said there was a lot of information in a short time. So what are the key points? What are the highlights? What do you want our audience to really take away from today so that they can be safe and successful?
I think one of the key things is to make sure that they plan ahead. I remember when I first started talking about this several years ago, I was speaking with some of my customers, and they're like, it's 20 years from now. I'm going to be long retired. Yeah, I get that, but at the same time, it's good to plan ahead, because even if you may be retired, you got to think about the next generation that's going to be taking your place, and how you want to leave it with them. You would like to make sure that when you do leave it with them, that you um, that you leave it with them better than when you arrived, and making sure that folks do that is important.
Leandra, there's
Absolutely.
a couple of questions here that you may want to address.
Okay.
One is it the responsibility of the facility you are working at to provide the new fall protection for a fixed ladder, or is it up to the contractor?
It would be, I believe it would be the owner of the facility, because it would be fixed to the building, and then that would be the owner of the building that would be responsible for that. Now, they may have to purchase their own harnesses and potentially their own shuttles, but the actual system itself, and it also, there's a lot of variables there, but it also could be with regards to how their contract set up in terms of the maintenance side over the construction contract. But I would think that it most likely would be the owner of the facility that would be the responsible party.
So one more question. How much more expensive is it to retrofit a system as opposed to being there in the design phase?
Well, during the design phase, I would say you have a little bit more flexibility in terms of the type of system that you could put onto it. There are some cases where I see folks that will put a ladder up, and it has really large rungs or really large side rails, and it's really difficult to find a system off the shelf that will work with that. Whereas if you knew about the requirements within the design phase, you could help the engineer or a designer of that ladder say, hey, you know what? I know that you want to put this size rung on it, but if you make this a half an inch smaller, you're going to be able to put a traditional system on there that may only be, let's say, and I'm just throwing out numbers, but say $1,000, where if it is after the fact and the ladder's already built, and it's something that not off the shelf system will work with, it could maybe cost $4,000 or $5,000. So it really just depends on the situation, but it is, I would definitely recommend doing it in the design phase as much as possible.
Perfect.
Great.
So we do have another question here. They want to know, how long can the SLR be exposed to weather before it needs to be serviced or tested?
I think it really depends on the retractable itself. There are different types of retractables that are on the market. Most retractables that are on the market are open, and some of them are sealed. So a sealed unit potentially will be a little bit more resilient in the environment. However, I would go off of the manufacturer's recommendations on the pre-use and semi-annual or annual competent person inspections for the retractables. And also depends on the environment as well. You may need to inspect them more frequently.
Perfect. This one might answer some questions, but how can people request a site assessment from Honeywell to improve their safety measures?
They would just have to reach out to Miller Fall Protection or Honeywell Safety Products, and we can get them set up with one of our local representatives.
Okay. There are some confined space questions here. This person says they work at a WWTP municipality with a ton of fixed ladders inside, permit required for confined spaces. Does this change things? Is it more expensive, etc.?
I would probably say one of the areas where it may make it a little bit more expensive would be the materials. In many municipalities, because of the chemicals and the water and everything else with the wastewater treatment plants, you would have to go with stainless steel. So stainless steel, and in most cases, is going to be stainless steel or aluminum. and the cost of those systems do cost a little bit more than the standard galvanized. But the systems themselves, the only thing that I would say that may cost a little bit more potentially is if you're going into a clarifier, or some of the other tanks that are there would be the rescue system side of it. And that may not necessarily fall under the fixed ladder. That may actually fall under either a tripod or a davit style rescue system. And it just depends. But could it cost more? Potentially, but maybe not. It would be more materials.
Hey, Andrew, could I chime in on that a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. Please.
So if you are going into a vertical entry confined space and you're using let's say a traditional tripod, the way that this standard is worded for the ladders is you have to use a system or fall protection. So when you have the retrieval device set up on the tripod, there's an inertia brake in the unit that if you fell off the ladder, it stops you. So it satisfies the fall protection requirement for a fixed vertical ladder. So in that scenario, you wouldn't necessarily need a device on your ladder if you're using a tripod or DuraHoist or some other system with a retrieval device.
Absolutely correct. Thank you, Bob.
Perfect. We do have some questions on maintenance. What kind of maintenance is required for fall arrest systems? Do you have a helpful handy guide? Where do they look for that to keep up?
Okay. A lot of that is going to be in the manufacturer's operating manual. With these systems, some may need a little bit more inspection than others, but at minimum, it needs to be inspected prior to each use, like all fall protection, and recommended a competent person on an annual basis. With these, because they are fixed to a ladder, depending on the application and where it's at, I would definitely recommend when they're doing any type of an inspection, make sure they pull out their torque wrench and retorque everything down as they're inspecting it. And it's something that just needs to be on a regular basis. If it's something that is in a area that has a lot of vibration, or a very area that has lots of chemicals, definitely needs to be inspected more frequently than something that is not in a caustic area.
Perfect. It does look like we are done for questions. We'll give everyone a few moments here if they have anything more that they needed to add. Andrew, where should they reach out to you? How do they get in touch with the Honeywell team to ensure that all of their questions, their comments, their concerns are answered by the Honeywell team?
Again, you can reach out to millerfallprotection.com or honeywellsafetyproducts.com, or I'm going to put my contact information back up here. If they scan this QR code, they can get my contact information. And if they would like somebody from in their local area to come out and take a look, if you could just reach out to me, and I will be able to just let me know what city and state they're in, and I can forward you over to the proper fall protection specialist in the area.
Fantastic. Well, I want to give you a huge shout out, Andrew, as well as Bob and the rest of the Honeywell team in the background here, because without you guys, who knows where we'd be without our ladder safety, right?
Yep.
So thanks so much to you, Andrew. Thank you so much to Honeywell, Miller Fall Protection, the AD team for allowing us to put this presentation on today. Of course, I want to thank all of the dedicated safety professionals for the great work they do on continuing to keep us safe, and you, the audience, because again, without you guys, none of this would be possible. So thanks again. Take care, stay safe, and reach out to your Honeywell and your Miller Fall Protection safety team. Bye, everyone.